Chapter 28. Power Deployment Number 5. Tae-hyuk first marked his own building map and easily divided it into several sections. He then proceeded to install the traps at the marked locations. Well, let's check it out. Quote. On the map. He had carefully written down directions on how to direct the warrior. If he followed those exact directions, then he would be able to put his opponent into a corner. However, some unexpected variables could occur. Tae-hyuk began visualizing several different situations and how he deal with them. In the meantime, it was time to start self-studying at night. All sound disappeared from the special activities building. Now, is it 7:05 p.m. It's around the time for the warrior to move. Quote. It was also time for Tae-hyuk to take action. Lastly, Tae-hyuk confirmed all of his equipment. Everything he needed was currently gathered. I'll go and get ready for the guests. Quote. B High School's self-study started at 7:00 p.m., which was when the supervisor would wander around to check attendance. All the students were supposed to be in the classroom. Once attendance was checked, the supervisor would loosen up some students with the special activities building to do other things or even to run away. The warrior was aiming for this short gap in timing. Now is the time to do something in secret. Quote. While the main building had the latest security systems, the old wooden building didn't even have a common CCTV one. If it wasn't for the geographical advantage of being close to the playground, no one would ever change clothes here. Tae-hyuk was hiding in the A17 area, the place of the first trap. He also spotted a window that was slightly open, which was where the opponent would probably enter through here. 7:07 p.m. The opponent moved. Kiek. There was no need to check the demon revealing mirror. It was the sound of a window opening. A black shadow was revealed by the backlight. Tae-hyuk minimized his sound as much as possible as he watched the movements of the opponent. He isn't collecting the cameras. Single quote. The warrior merely took out the memory from the camera and checked its contents. He made a small sound, as if he didn't like the content shown. He reset the data and reinstalled the camera. Everything took less than 10 seconds. If this was a sport in the Olympics, then would he get a gold medal? Single quote. The black shadow finished his work in an instant and left the room. It wasn't something he had done only once or twice. However, the warrior would have never imagined that someone else was hiding in here. The binding trap is installed in area A12. Let's move right away. Single quote. Tae-hyuk left his hiding place and chased behind the warrior. The opponent had stopped at a place 20 meters away. He had activated the binding trap and his feet were tied. After confirming it, Tae-hyuk moved to the A13 area. Now is the most important part. Single quote. Tae-hyuk used the demon revealing mirror to activate voice modulation. He chose female student that he had prepared in advance. Quote. After Tae-hyuk confirmed that his voice was changed, he spoke loudly enough for the warrior to hear. What do I do? I was tired from exercising and forgot. Quote. Then he changed voices to student B. The seniors saw me sleeping and just left. I have to change clothes and go straight to the classroom. Quote. He changed it back. Why yes. Hurry. Quote. Voice modulation could only imitate people's voices. He had to create the other sound effects himself. For example, the sound of clothes being taken off. Sururuk. The sound of clothes rubbing against skin was heard in the darkness. The warrior swallowed his saliva. Tae-hyuk felt disgusted. Do I really have to do this? Single quote. He took off his uniform, leaving him in only short sleeves and shorts. Student C will emerge at this point. Single quote. Tae-hyuk ducked out of the classroom and crouched down in front of it. He shouted. It sounded like he was speaking from outside the classroom. Sanbei Naim. Big trouble. There's a frenzy outside because the warrior entered the school. Quote. He felt a presence in the hallway. The warrior was aghast. Ugh. What is this? Single quote. At that moment, Tae-hyuk felt dizzy. His body almost collapsed. Tae-hyuk stabbed his thigh with a stick just to keep conscious. He could feel his consciousness coming back. Is it because I used the skill too much? Single quote. This was the first time. Now was the most important part. Tae-hyuk gritted his teeth and imitated the voice of student D with voice modulation. The guard said that the police are coming. Come out quickly. Quote, I can't miss catching the fish. Just a little more. Single quote. He heard the sound of the voyeur rushing away. Tae-hyuk forced his legs to move and chased after the opponent. Asterisk asterisk. In order to use his skills, stamina was consumed. He had particularly used a lot of it over the past few days. In the end, the burden came rushing in at once. I think I used more last week, perhaps. In that moment, Tae-hyuk recalled an Yoon Young's healthy food. His hands clenched at the thought. Surprisingly, it had supplemented a lot of his stamina. After not eating it for a few days, his body sent out a few signals. Did he have to eat her food for the rest of his lifetime? At that moment, he had an ominous feeling. Anyway, the target is in Area B4. Shall I give it a try? Single quote. Tae-hyuk imitated the voice of a guard. The police officers are here. Quote. The confused voyeur fell down. However, he got up through superhuman willpower and started to run. At that time, a wall appeared in front of the voyeur. If he had looked closely, then he would be able to see that it was just a painting. However, in such a panicked state, such a cold judgment was impossible. In the end, he ran to the other side of the hallway to avoid the wall. A smile flashed on Tae-hyuk's face. As expected, he ran to point C. Single quote. This time, he imitated the voice of Cho Kang-suk. I will arrest the criminal who violated the special sexual violence law. You can remain silent. And any of your remarks can be used against you in court. You can appoint a lawyer and have the lawyer speak for you when asked a question. If you don't have money for a lawyer, you will be appointed a public defender. Do you recognize your rights? Quote. Tae-hyuk imitated what he saw in movies as much as possible. The opponent panicked as Tae-hyuk read his version of the Miranda warning in Cho Kang-suk's voice. Originally, they were words that the police would say only after arresting the criminal. But it was still enough to panic the opponent. The voyeur heard Cho Kang-suk's cry and started to run faster. Now, go straight. Then you will be very happy. Single quote. Tae-hyuk took a deep breath as he watched as the opponent ran in the direction planned. He wouldn't get any merits from catching this criminal. However, he was happy since he could spend the rest of his time practicing forgery here. That in itself was satisfying enough. Anyway, this time I can't get any skill. No matter how he thought about it. X-ray vision was a good skill. If only, someday, I might get a chance again. At any rate, haven't I solved the case? Single quote. He felt bittersweet. This was the end of the B High School voyeur incident. However, something Tae-hyuk hadn't imagined occurred at this moment. Kyak. Quote. A female screamed from the place that the voyeur was running to. Who? Aren't all the students in the main building? Quote. Students A, B, C and D who remained in the special activities building were hypothetical people created by Tae-hyuk. Did they suddenly pop out in reality? Wait a minute. This is the second time I've heard that voice. Hannah Sunbae. Quote. Tae-hyuk realized that he had forgotten about her. Lee Hannah went to France after graduating. Due to that, she could live a leisurely life without attending the self-study at night. If I have time, then I will come back to teach my cute junior. Single quote. She had obviously said that. Tae-hyuk ran forward with a sick expression. Lee Hannah was in danger. Asterisk asterisk. The situation had gone seriously sideways. The voyeur saw that a witness had suddenly appeared and pulled out a weapon. He was a middle-aged man wearing a suit. And gave off a meek and intelligent atmosphere. Such a person was a voyeur. To Tae-hyuk, he was a stranger. However, Lee Hannah might know who he was. Lee Hannah alternated her gaze between the criminal and Tae-hyuk with a pale face. The voyeur asked in a trembling voice. Right now. Chased by police. Stay quiet. Don't get hurt. Hostage. Quote. Lee Hannah closed her mouth and nodded. Tae-hyuk gritted his teeth. This situation was even more dangerous. He didn't know when the confused opponent would use his weapon against Lee Hannah. The rabbit was cornered. Damn. It is entirely my responsibility if Sunbae gets hurt. Single quote. Tae-hyuk released the voice modulation skill. Then he approached the two people. Ajashi. Don't get excited and listen to me. Quote. W. Who are you? Quote. A student just passing by. Quote. G. Go away. Quote. You have a lot of camera equipment. So I can tell what your hobby is. According to Article 14 of the Special Sexual Violence Law, a person who uses a camera or other similar methods to film an unaware person's body for their own sexual desires is liable for imprisonment up to 5 years or a fine of up to 10 million won. Quote. You. Quote. However, the punishment is double that if you threaten or injure a person with a weapon. So, why don't you have a conversation with me? Quote. No. Fuck. I'm going to kill both of you. No one will know if I run away after killing you. Quote. The voyeur had now turned into a murderer with a weapon. However, the blade was now aimed at Seo Tae-hyuk instead of Lee Hannah. Thus far, it is as planned. Single quote. Plan A to catch the voyeur had failed. Plan B still remained. Tae-hyuk slowly reached out to his opponent and said, Really? Then,